Good evening and welcome to the Play Space Live. Keith Avalone from Play Games, glad you're here. My son Sam is running the board again tonight. Yes, I'm wearing a Cardinal shirt. In honor of our World Series pre-play in St. Louis, we'll be playing the Fall Classic live on location with the very set that we're going to show you tonight, the 2019 Pro In-Season set for History Maker Baseball. Our goal for this little video is to show you what's in the set, tell you a little bit about how it's made, kind of a show and tell type deal. So let's get to it. Get the print version here in front of me. It's exactly the same as the PDF version, except that you don't, with the printed version, you don't have to print anything. We'll start with the preliminary stuff here. We have an intro page that goes along with the card set. And it's basically a printed version of what you're going to be watching here tonight. It kind of walks you through the different things, the different aspects of the set. So I won't really go into what's in this point by point at this point. Then there's a traded player guide. It's a 2-page guide this year. It walks you through the various trades of importance in relation to this card set. It does not list every trade that was made this year. I did do the research and looked at all those trades, but if there were players who weren't carded, there was no really point in putting their trade data into this trade guide. So the trade guide includes information on all the players in the set who were moved from one club to another, either waived or traded or whatever. So it's basically, they're listed in alphabetical order. It gives you the date of the trade and where the guy went from and where he went to. All this information is on baseballreference.com. If you want to get more information than just the basics. Then we have suggested batting orders. These, of course, come with every History Maker baseball card set. These also are derived from information on baseballreference.com based on the most used players for each position in the batting order. Again, this uses the lineups and statistics of the 2019 season to this point, to August 18th was actually the cutoff date when we began compiling this data. And the batting orders are essentially based on early season rosters. Some of these players are no longer on these teams, but I had to draw the line somewhere, so I made batting orders based on the preseason or the early season roster. So you'll get suggested batting orders, and they are suggested, by the way. It's amazing how much batting orders change over the course of a season. So use this only as a guideline for setting up your batting orders. Feel free to make them any way you want. Here's the Universal Instant Results chart, which we include with all our in-season sets. It's also posted on the free stuff page, unchanged. It's nothing specific. That's why we call it a universal. It uses winning percentages, and you can match up teams. There's a home field advantage built into it. And we use this, we'll be using it in a couple weeks here to fast forward through the rest of the season. I'll actually print off the rest of the Major League Baseball season starting, probably maybe the 10th of September or so, and play out the rest of the regular season using this chart based on the standings at that point. We'll kind of diverge from reality and play out all the games with a single dice roll, just get the winners and add up the, keep the standings and then determine our playoff field. And we've done, this is the 7th year we've done this. And generally speaking, it's a pretty good indicator of who's going to make the playoffs and who isn't. I remember one year that I think the year that the Royals won the World Series, or were in the World Series, they didn't make our playoffs because they went on this horrendous losing streak. I think they lost like their last 18 games or something. It just could not roll for them. So they didn't even make the playoffs. Then they went on to go to the World Series. But generally speaking, that's an outlier. Generally speaking, it's actually a pretty good indicator of who's going to win the divisions. Even though it may not seem, the teams that make our playoff field, sometimes it's like, what? They made the playoffs? And then, lo and behold, end of the season, that's who actually does. So we have 3 sheets of umpires for this set. Typically, we just use one set of umpires, or one sheet of umpires. We include the umpires that have the various umpiring qualities. But this year, I thought I would include all the umpires. A few people mentioned that last year, and I know some people go to great lengths to create the umpire cards and create umpire crews. So you won't have to work on that this year. All the umpires are here. Now you'll notice that some of them don't have any qualities. That's because all the umpires are here, and there are some average umpires that don't get any qualities. So the qualities are distributed, more thinly through the set. but all the umpires that have called games in 2019 are included in this set. Now we get to the cards themselves. I guess I can orient them so you can see them here. These are based on the big league stats through August 17th, actually. I began working on them on the 18th. Stats through the 17th. It represents about 75% of the season. Statistically speaking, that's a very solid sample. If I have time, I will go through some cards. I went through, just before the broadcast started, I thought, here, I had this idea. Why don't I print out some of the 2018 in-season cards and then compare them with the 2018 full-season cards, just to give you an idea of how close they typically are. So I randomly chose Cleveland because their sheet started at the top. I had all their players on the same sheet. And I got around to separating a few of them. I'll show you them here in a bit, but let's go through the cards first and talk about the set itself. It's actually a very different card set than our other full season sets. First of all, they're all different players. You get more players, and they're all different. The full season sets, if a player plays for multiple teams, he's going to get cards for each team, because generally speaking, he'll trade teams, he'll move teams right around the trade deadline, sometime in July, and he'll generate enough numbers over July, August, and September to have enough to make a card from, and he'll wind up on both teams. But that's not the case for this set, because a lot of players have just moved to new teams and they have minimal stats, so you can't build a card on that. So what we do is we create single cards for each player, and then we make a duplicate card of that player for his new team, with the thinking being that this is Team B acquires the player from Team A on, say, July 31st, and they're basing that trade on what the guy's done up through July 31st. So it kind of makes sense, in my mind anyway, to just use those numbers and transfer those numbers over to the new team. So the players get duplicate cards for both teams, but the traded cards are in a separate section at the very end. I'll show you. Well, each of the cards for players who have been traded, they're generally placed on the team that they started the season with, and there'll be a symbol. It's like a star symbol. I don't know if you can see this. I'll bring it up a little bit so maybe you can see it a little bit better. But you can see Joey Rickard and Keon Broxton for Baltimore. They've got a little star symbol at the end. That means that they are no longer on Baltimore. So if you want to play with the season with you play your card set with the season opening rosters, you're going to leave these guys on their clubs, and each club has generally a couple players who have departed over the course of the season. So if you want to play with beginning season rosters, you'll just use the cards as they are. At the end of the card set, though, there is a pack of a couple of sheets of traded players who are carded with their new teams. Let me find it here for you. Here we go. So these guys have a different symbol, and I'll show you. It's like a little clover symbol, and these are all grouped together. These are all the players who are carded for their new teams. There's like 4 sheets of them here. So if you want to play with the current rosters, the pennant push rosters, as I like to call them, you'll remove all the starred cards from the set, and you'll replace them with all the cloverleaf cards. And then you'll have the current roster. So you can play it either way, or you can do it if you want to using the trade guide and make the trades in chronological order or calendar year order. But I think most of us want to play like today's baseball today. So most of us are going to separate these cards, discard the starred cards, or the burst cards, if you want to call it that, and replace them with the cloverleaf cards, and then we'll play with end of season rosters. That's what I intend to do with this. So it's a bigger set. Each of these teams has 30 players per team, not including the traded players. With the traded players, they're going to be teams of varying numbers. Some teams will have 32 or 33. Other teams will have 27 or 28. But the base teams have 30 players for each team, 30 teams, as opposed to the regular season sets, which have 24 players per team, and then you get 10 cards or 6 extra players per team. So it is a total of 30, but only 24 in the base set. This set gives you all 30. plus any traded players. So that's basically how the set works. A few things are kind of unique about this set, this year's set. First of all, there are more pitchers on the rosters. It's really kind of an interesting trend. It seems like pitching is just becoming more and more a part of the game, and there's more and more pitching changes. I've put together a lot of vintage sets, and there are Dodger teams that have like 10 pitchers for the whole season. And then you got teams this year that have 40 or even 50 pitchers, that have pitched an inning or two on the roster. So all that to say, on the normal sets, you might start with 12 batters and 12 pitchers on a real pitching-heavy team. But for this set, the base teams, the normal team will have 14 batters and 16 pitchers, and there are a number of teams that have 13 batters and 17 pitchers. So it is very pitching heavy for this particular card set. So I guess that's a trend kind of moving forward in Major League Baseball. Pitching. Speaking of pitching, it's relatively weak this year. I don't know if you've looked at the numbers, but the National league-wide ERA is 4.44 as of tonight. Of course, it changes daily. The American League ERA is 4.60. So that would classify or qualify as being semi-dynamic. The National League is just barely shy, although when I made this set, it was 4.46. So you could build a case. I mean, I'm probably going to use semi-dynamic when I'm playing both leagues. Lots of strugglers, lots of workmen. It's definitely a hitter's year in Big League Baseball, and that'll be reflected in the set. A few players in this set have 2 delta ratings, like Mike Trout, for example, is got a delta for a double and a delta for hit by pitch. We're going to say there's a liner note in the instructions that talks about you can roll a decide or die to determine which of those happens on a delta result. And that is basically it. We'll be playing some games with this set in the play space. Next week we're going to pre-play a Key Friday game on Thursday. We'll play it. We'll look ahead. We're actually going to do a fan vote. I've gone to the Major League schedule, and we've got the Brewers at the Cubs, Mets at Phillies, A's at Yankees, and Indians at Rays. All 4 of those games are next Friday night. They'll all have playoff implications. So we will choose one of them. In fact, we're going to let the fans choose. We're going to do a fan vote on the community Facebook page on starting Monday. It'll be Monday and Tuesday. We'll let people vote which of those games they'd like to see, and then we'll play that out on the Thursday night play space. And that is... Oh, yeah, I was going to show you the cards. Sam's reminding me. You can, I guess you can leave the camera right there. I was thinking as you was going along, you should probably take the camera off the table and put it on me, but let's leave it on the table for now. So let's start with Yonder Alonso. I don't think you can see that. I hate to kind of hold it up. I guess I can hold it up if you can see it. All right, so there's Yonder. This is his in-season card. This is his regular season card. As you can see, and that's why we use a different design. We use a different design for the in-season cards. You can see that the in-season cards have the team name at the bottom, and there's a little bit more. There's a little grayscale color here, and just a little bit different design. It's a left orientation for the names. But more importantly, looking at the data, you can see that his card is identical. It's an identical card for the in-season set as it was for his full-season set, which stands to reason. I mean, you've played 75% of the season. A lot of these players are not going to change that much. There are some who do, many who do. For example, let's look at Francisco Lindor. Again, I chose the Indians at random. I don't know whether they have more or less change. I'm going to assume that they're pretty typical. So you can see in the in-season set he was a semi-hero, but looks like his batting average tailed off a little bit toward the end. So he lost the semi-hero, kept the semi-slugger, semi-home run king. So essentially he's the same, but it's an active, semi-active runner, and of course everything else is the same. He did get the delta for the double in the in-season set, did not get it in the regular season set, so that will cost him a few doubles. But generally speaking, it's a pretty similar card. We'll do one more. Let's look at Jason Kipnis. How about? So here's Jason's in-season card right here, and here's his regular season card. Utility, his regular season card, utility, slugger, semi-whiffer. In the in-season, he was utility, semi-slugger, semi-whiffer. So he was slightly less power in the in-season set. Looks like he picked up toward the end. He also, probably most importantly, is rated fielding semi-iron for the in-season set. Full season set, he's just normal. So, and it looks like his base running changed as well. Semi-stoic versus nothing for his full season set. He must have stolen a few bases towards the end of the season. So, there's the comparison between the in-season and the full season sets. My sense is that it's interesting to have a set that's a little bit different than than everybody else's card set. I feel like the in-season set is a pretty credible representation of big league baseball. So, we would love for you to purchase both sets, or if you would prefer waiting to buy the full season set. I get that, but I really feel like the both sets are pretty credible representations of the baseball season. And if you have the how-to guide, I think you'll understand that oftentimes. The qualities are representing a level of ability, and you're rounding up or down. And in some cases, it's the quality that he does get might be a little over what he should have gotten anyway. Whereas the a little bit of a decrease in performance will put him right where he probably should be anyway. So it's the nature of the way the cards are rated to have a little bit of variability, but I think, as you can see, they're pretty consistent. Most players' performances, are pretty well locked in by this point of the season. Now, what isn't accounted for are the late season call-ups, the guys that only play in September. So they don't get cards at all in this set, and they might get a card in the full season set. Assuming they got 100 at-bats or something like that. So that's what will be missing from this set that you would get in a full season set. Anyway, little sideline discussion about comparing the two season card sets. Bottom line is, this card set, I think, is really going to be able to replicate what's going on in big league baseball right now, and it'll be a lot of fun to play. I've been playing it now for 7 years, and it's always a fun time. So we'll be using the set to pre-play to our Fall Classic in St. Louis. We'll be looking for volunteers in the community who want to jump in and play a series. We'll fast forward to the regular season, probably around September 10th. Then we'll do our wild card play-in games. We'll probably broadcast one of those on our YouTube channel, and then we'll parcel out the divisional series to play the community, whoever would like to play them. We usually find some people whose favorite team made our playoffs, and we have them play out their series. And then we'll get to St. Louis with the 4 teams, the American League and National League divisional series contestants, and we will go to a Game 7 format for that. We'll play this. We'll assume that it's tied at 3 games each. We'll play a deciding Game 7 to decide who makes it to our Fall Classic, and then we'll play all 7 games of that in St. Louis at Game Night Games. You can get information on that event on the website. Just click the community link from any page, and then we get to the community page, click on the St. Louis link, and it'll tell you all the information, including our night before activities at the hotel in St. Louis. So that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Any questions? Always available via email, info@plaay.com. And we will see you next week for our in-season playoff implication viewer's choice History Maker Baseball game using this card set. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you again next week.